Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar with Siemplify and Talion. Today, we'll be covering the hybrid SOC and how combining in-house and outsourced operations can improve your security outcomes. The hybrid SOC model, where both managed security service providers and end customers join forces, isn't new, but it is ultimately the future of every SOC. This model does offer flexibility, scalability, and cost effectiveness. However, it does require careful planning and collaboration from both the MSSP and the end user to ensure goals are achieved. So today we're going to be discussing how those two groups can come together and how we can create a better environment. Before we begin, I do want to let everyone know that there will be a Q&A at the end of this session, so feel free to ask those questions with the control panel at the bottom of your screen at any point in time, and we'll help address those at the end. And furthermore, this presentation is being recorded and will be sent out to everyone upon conclusion today. So again, we're gonna go over a quick introduction. I'll introduce our speakers today, as well as we'll go over the Siemplify platform and the history of Talion. We'll also cover the current state of cybersecurity and the growing threat landscape. We'll also discuss the existing hybrid SOC model and the future of the hybrid SOC model. We'll cover some examples and case studies, and then as mentioned, we'll do that Q&A at the end. So joining me today is Mike Brown, the CEO of Talion. Mike has decades of experience in both cybersecurity and specifically working with and managing managed security service providers. And then joining us on the Siemplify side is Jenya, our director of product, also with years of cybersecurity experience. So quickly to start, here's a little bit about Siemplify. As a company, we are rooted in security operations, or as we like to say, we were born in the SOC. Our company was founded by security operations experts who worked in a government SOC and then went on to train dozens and dozens of both military and civilian SOCs from around the world. They founded the company and developed Siemplify based on their experiences and everything that security operations teams need to succeed. We are the leading independent security operations platform, and we're trusted by the biggest and best enterprises and MSSPs from around the world. Many Fortune 500 companies and Gartner Magic Quadrant MSSPs trust Siemplify as the platform to run their security operations day in and day out. And to that extent, we're also the #1 rated SOAR platform on Gartner Peer Insights. So with that, I will hand things over to Mike.
Thanks, Chris. Everyone, it's a great opportunity to speak with you. You probably don't know the name Talion, but you probably know our where we came from. We actually came out of BAE Systems as a buyout in April of 2020. So the journey of Talion started in 2012 when the UK government asked BAE Systems to protect the London Olympic Games. And back in those days, there weren't a lot of platforms and technology to really deal with nation state. You know, the people they were dealing with were the worst of the bad guys. And then in 2017, they started growing that business, and it became quite a large business. It was ranked in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for the last 8 years that Gartner was doing it before they stopped it. And they decided as a company that they'd gotten so large, they needed to start to become more efficient and more effective at what they were doing. So they started looking at SOAR technology, and they actually looked at all of them. Back in those days, it was Siemplify, Demystify, Swimlane, SecureWorks, CyberSponse, all those guys. And they decided on Siemplify because of the advanced capabilities that Siemplify had, the flexibility and the agility that it brought over the competition. And so in 2017, they made a decision and acquired the Siemplify platform. Then in 2020, BAE made a decision. They're a government business, and they decided that, you know, their commercial business would do better elsewhere outside of their business, and so they decided to spin it off. And Cyfor Security was born. And then in 2021, the beginning or March of 2021, we actually rebranded Cyfor Security to become Talion. And so it's been a interesting year standing up a company in the world pandemic. And we moved forward into where we are now and moving into 2021. We're still the same company that we were with BAE. We've got all the same employees, same customer base. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And so our company is got 10 years of experience with some of the largest FTSE 250 and Fortune 500 companies in the world. We invest heavily in threat intelligence and detection. We've got our whole company is based on threat-led capability, and we've seen and been involved in many cases of both insider and external threats, from ransomware to malware to insiders trying to steal things. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And the reason I brought those first two slides up before I go any further is to, whenever I go to a session, I want to know what does that company know about it, and what does that company do that they can give me some information about what's going forward. And because of where we are as a global company, one of the things we see on a regular basis is the growing landscape, and we see it because we're in both UK, EMEA, Middle East, and in the US. And so we see the cyber threat platform on all levels. And one of the things we've started to notice, go ahead and go to the next slide, is that cybercrime, we all know about cybercrime getting out of control, and it's growing exponentially. But we did some research, and in 2020, the financial damages from cybersecurity breaches was over 1 trillion. They're estimating that that's going to go to 6 trillion by 2021. And for me personally, I was trying to get my head wrapped around how big is 6 trillion? I couldn't get my head wrapped around it. So I started doing some research and realized that at 6 trillion, it's bigger than Japan's GDP. And the reason why this is important, go ahead and go to the next slide, is that we are trying to stop and protect, whether you're an MSSP, whether you're a company of yourself, you're trying to protect yourself from cybercrime. And the challenge you're facing is that cyber criminals are an organization, and they have built an ecosystem. Nation state actors are using stolen PI information to barter with smaller gangs to create associated attacks on certain targets. And they're winning, and they're winning big, and those numbers that I just presented show that. Go ahead and go to the next slide. However, we on the good guy side, we're not. We're dealing with this whole process more of an isolation. We've got smaller budgets. We've got much more vulnerabilities. The old saying that, we have to be right 100% of the time, and the bad guys only got to be right once. And they can run 7x24 attacks on us. And all I got to do is just, in some point in time, be right once, where we have to protect, and we have zero fault tolerance on our side. We're in a losing situation in trying to win that battle. So how do we go ahead and do that? And so at Talion, when we bought this company, we had a goal up front, is to change that and to move away from islands of isolation. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And when we look at isolation in the MSSP world or in the non-MSSP world, if you're an individual company, you're working in as a level of isolation. There's you by yourself, your network, your teams really advanced are trying to protect your company from being breached. But if you look at the slides before it, we're outnumbered and outgunned by the cybersecurity bad guys. And if you move to an MSSP, they're still an island. They're just a island that manages the process for you. And traditionally, MSSPs, and we've all heard it, and us being one, it's the black box. We bring it in, we analyze everything, we provide you with information, we send results out to you, but we're still kind of a block. So when you look at that visualization I have there, it's now 2 islands of isolation. It's still not come together as a community. Go ahead and go to the next slide. And so we made a decision from the very beginning of this company that we were going to change the way we provide services, the way we work with companies, and we're creating what we call the Talion ecosystem, where we bring all of the experts from the industry together to work with us in our ecosystem, because we as an individual company can't win. We have to start to come together as a community. And we bring those programs together to be able to deliver the highest level of transparency, collaboration, and control across all of these platforms, so that we can change that odds of not being part of that 6 trillion number, because none of us want to be part of that. Let's go to the next slide. And so how do you do that? Gartner came up with a new language and a new process for it, and it's called the hybrid. The hybrid SOC is the direction. And so today we're going to kind of spend some time talking about what Talion kind of looks at. What is a hybrid SOC and how does a hybrid SOC work? And it's just our view of what we do and how we run our global organization. So let's go to the next slide. In 2017, the challenge we were facing, which is everybody still faces this to this day, is that the volume of data and alerts coming out of a SIM or whatever system you're using, that volume of information is overwhelming. We can't manage it. It increases our triage time. It makes it more difficult to identify any malicious code. It's a challenge for us to try to address. In addition, all of that volume over time takes a wear on our SOC. Analysts get burnt out, they leave. You know, I've read statistics that the analyst turnover is somewhere close to that of retail. In addition to that, you know, you miss incidents, and what that does, all of that ends up putting us in a position where we have a compromised security posture. And in 2017, we recognized that, and that's why we started going out to look at SOAR to see if we could find a way to improve that process. Go ahead, next slide. And when we were looking at this problem, we faced it only on the larger level because we have much larger networks from all of our customers, and we have to manage all of them 7/24. And the volume of information that was coming to us was causing us to really make our SOCs larger, have more 24/7 work. It was burning out our analysts. And on top of that, many of our customers are nation state targets. So they're getting checked out every single day, and we see them coming after our customers every single day. And so we made a decision. We have to become more intelligent in 2017. We have to be more agile. We have to move faster and smarter to stop the bad guys. Go ahead. Next slide. And so we selected Siemplify as our SOAR vendor. Jenya?
Hey, Mike, thanks. So it will be a nice segue maybe to tell a few words about Siemplify and how it works today. So Siemplify SOC platform today is used by Talion along with some of the biggest security teams in the world. Now, the reason behind it is that it helps improve SOC efficiency and SOC effectiveness by a factor of 3. With Siemplify, security analysts can go through alerts faster and have enough time to focus on proactive tasks as well. Now, Siemplify automatically reduces also alert overload by up to 80%. So when analysts do go through cases, we make sure that they can focus on what's important for them. Now, when pouring automation in, it also dramatically reduces the time it takes to respond to alerts. So it makes incident response more sharper and more effective. And of course, now it's available on cloud as a SaaS instance. And I kind of want to show you on a high level how it works internally. So Chris, can we move to the next slide, please? Amazing. So being the central platform in security operations, everything starts with what is connected into Siemplify. And along with the people that work in Siemplify, we also connect to the entire, let's say, security stack. And we pull alerts from your SIMs, EDRs, either directly or via the SIM, NDRs, XDRs, phishing mailboxes, cloud solutions. So everything that generates this data that you need to go through daily is pushed into Siemplify. And the next step for us is not to send it directly to the analyst, because this is just sending the same data that they can see in the tools. We have a threat-centric case approach, and those cases are created based on patented technologies of contextual grouping and noise reduction. So when those cases are created, basically, we can take disparate alerts and put them into one case and one unit that the analysts need to look at. At the next step, then, we have the playbooks running and executing different types of actions. Usually, it can query your threat intelligence source, big data sources, send files to a sandbox or URLs, talk to your CASB, talk to your Active Directory, and it usually will bring enrichment to add more context. and sometimes even more data and more alerts to be grouped into this already kind of grouped unit, contextual unit. So in the next phase, after the case was built, now security analysts are ready and already able to make a decision. They can look on the data collected by the automation, and they can read through the decisions that were made by automation, and through the data that was collected and contextualized for them. And they even have a graph representation of everything, so they can kind of click through the alert and through the threat. And then it is time to respond to this threat. And after validating the decisions made by automation, we can either, as analysts, we can either work manually, again, through Siemplify platform, and talk to our endpoints and firewalls and web gateways to solve the threat. Or we can click the automation and let it take it instead of us working on it. So the flows that we can do as advanced analysts, we can also do in automation. And finally, all processes are updating the analytics. So you can always keep track after your improvement, but also track the value that Siemplify brings into your SOC. And the last thing I want to talk about here is how all this how do you actually start seeing it in your Siemplify? And we'll talk a little bit about it more at the end also, because we also want to offer the community edition for download. But those end-to-end flows that you see in front of you are called use cases in Siemplify. And those use cases, this is what you're striving to build in your security operations. Now, the Siemplify marketplace offers predefined use cases that you can run with one click. And they also have a community edition. And they will give you the test data and the playbooks and the guides and the videos that will help you onboard use cases from your first day. And basically that makes Siemplify, the faster time to value out of any SOC platform that you will see. I think that we can go to the next slide. So, okay, so back to you, Mike.
Thank you. So you saw Siemplify and how it functions. Now this is how our SOCs function, and this is what our definition of a hybrid SOC falls into. And every one of our customers get the benefit of the value from our hybrid SOC. If you start on the far left-hand side, you have where the raw data sources come from. All of our customers have their data sources, and we ingest those data sources. Those events come in through our process, and we do the normalization and collection of that information. And then the first phase that if you're going to be successful with a SOAR platform, it starts in the SIM, because the SIM itself produces so much volume of information, and the white noise that comes out of a SIM, if it's not filtered properly, will overload any system that it tries to go to. So the first thing that we've done, and in 2017 when we looked at it, we realized that we have to really improve how we do content management. And it's not just writing content, it's also looking at it, as we said, our whole business is driven by threat intelligence. Our threat analysts are some of the most advanced threat intelligence platforms in the world, because we came out of defense contracting, and a lot of them still have their TS, top secret clearance. They've worked on some of the biggest projects in the world. And so we use that knowledge and that wisdom of our threat intelligence to not just hunt for what's coming at us, but also start to develop the platform to allow us to deliver a continuous process for identification and remediation of threat. And by doing that, what we do is we take all of the threat intelligence information we have, and we build that into our content rules so that we minimize the amount of data flow that comes out of there. Now, once that data comes out, it moves into Siemplify, or what we've wrapped and what we call our internal project for it is called OCP, which is it's Orchestration Collaboration Platform. And what we do, as Jenya described in his previous process, is we take this volume of alerts that come in, and we start correlating them through the Siemplify process to bring them into a filtered down number of cases. As a result of that, we then go out and we enrich that information. So if you follow this to the left, you start to see that we have our playbook development. We also integrate with what's It was called EDR, now it's called NDR. There is not only that, it's looking at UEBA, the behavioral analytics, enhanced monitoring, and all the different capabilities that you have to be delivering, because you can't, as an organization, just look at everything coming in from the outside. The threats going on the inside are just as great. And for us, because of the size and the scope of our customers, we see this every day. So when we brought all that together, it allowed us to start to drive a level of intelligence, a level of agility, and as I said earlier, be able to react so fast that we're able to protect our customers. And since 2012, we've been very fortunate that none of our customers have ever been breached, and we've got a treasure chest of customer success stories and war stories of things that we've protected. And then at the end, what we do is we use, in our case, we use ServiceNow is our ITSM system, and that's our single source of truth, so that when we have to go back in the future, we see what's going on. This is what we call a hybrid. This allows us to deliver all types of information flow, manage the data, and yet even give our more visibility to our customers through this process. Let's go to the next slide. And Genya talks about in his slide about how a SOAR platform can deliver, significant results. Well, from our perspective, just to make sure everybody understands, SOAR technology is a massive platform. It can do so much more than most people think about when you're first looking at SOAR. The capabilities of this management, which it is as a management platform, are very, very significant. I kind of relate it to if you look at SAP or Oracle. If you're an organization that buys either one of those two, you end up having to build an entire organization to support that platform. Now, SOAR is not that big, so it doesn't have as much of that. But if you don't make the investment in SIM, you don't make the investment in developing your threat platform, and you don't make the investment in building out your playbooks, the technology is amazing, and the results you get is our analysts, we have reduced on average the number of cases that we manage by 70% because of what we do leveraging Siemplify. The automation and orchestration brings all that together, like Genya was describing to you. We bring that down significantly. The net of that is that our analysts now have 300% more time for triage. And that's the reason why we have kept our customers safe from being breached, because we've got some of the most advanced capabilities in the world, and we're giving our analysts and our threat team more time to look at what's coming in and not be overrun by all the volume of data. And that has then also resulted in the fact that we've got a 65% reduction in the number of analysts we have to run our business. So not only are we doing a better job, not only are we providing the highest quality value, but we've reduced our number of analysts we require by 65%. And our turnover has really dropped to a very low level because we're not burning them out. We're not running them over with so many alerts that they can't keep up with it. And it allows us to provide the level of service that we're delivering to our customer base. Go to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about some other pieces that are, I think, will be of interest to everybody out there. And I'm hitting on insider threat because it is a big piece. And when you talk about one of the pieces in the Gartner study, it talks about UEAB, behavioral analytics. And behavioral analytics are all focused on insider threat, and you have to really do a good job on that. In addition to that, you also need to make sure that you've got the ability to do it enhanced monitoring, because you have to start to look inside just as much as you're looking outside. Go to the next slide. And here's an example of one of our customers that it's a large manufacturer, a multi-billion-dollar manufacturer, and they knew that they were having problems and they couldn't really pinpoint it. So they asked us to step up our monitoring of what they do. And so we did. We increased our monitoring on their network. And with the help of Siemplify, pushing that information into Siemplify so that our analysts could see it quickly, we identified that there was an individual in that organization that had taken and was trying to email out 1,904 sensitive documents to a personal email account and we shut it down in less than 30 minutes. We found it, we brought all the data back, we pushed that information over to the HR organization so they could deal with that person, and we averted that breach. That breach could have been a significant impact to that business, and they would have been one of these businesses that was in the paper. That's just an example of why insider threat is so important. And we see this on a regular basis. This isn't a one-off for us. We see it quite a bit. Let's go to the next one. The next piece of Gartner's decision about what is a hybrid SOC was EDR and the importance of EDR. COVID has driven the need for EDR through the roof. We're now all remote. Most of us today are working remote probably. And that extension of where we work now has really stretched the fabric of our network and created a lot of fractures in it. And the cyber gangs and the cyber nation states are using that to come in and just wreak havoc on us. You see the numbers in the beginning. And so the new term for it is called XDR, and that's where you're able to provide a service. And what we've done at Talion is we made a decision not to build any of these technologies. There's too many great vendors out there. Carbon Black, CrowdStrike, ATP Defender, there's a lot of them that deliver fantastic EDR platforms. And what we do is we integrate with all those. And if the customer has their own, we integrate and we bring it in, and we then tie that into our Siemplify platform and extend it out so that many MSPs will say they do remote remediation. And what they do is they take and get an email from you that says, yes, go remediate. They sign into your EDR platform and they actually do the remediation. Well, that's kind of, we look at that as a real high level exposure that should have a control around it. We do it through automation and leveraging the playbooks and automation of Siemplify, so that when a customer sees that there is a situation that needs to be remediated, a firewall needs to be shut down, a email needs to be bounced because of a phishing attack, they can literally do it automated through the process. And these are things that you as a customer of leveraging Siemplify could do those same kind of things. And it really improves the time and efficiency of what you do. Let's go to the next slide. And to kind of bring it back around to, I've said it a few times, but I'll bring it again because this is so important, is the level of threat coverage modeling that you're doing today. Depending on where you're at, depending on the sources that you get for your threat coverage, if you're not doing this at the highest level, you're really exposing yourself to opportunities that the threat vectors are changing so fast and so rapid. The bad guys are coming at you from so many different angles that that you have to be doing that. And then as a result of that threat modeling, you have to make sure that you're developing the content filtering process to address those, which then you also need to make sure your playbooks and your orchestration in the SOAR are following those processes, because without that, your systems will operate, but they won't be operating at an optimal level. Let's go to the next slide. And here's another example of a threat that we dealt with. It was a large television station that's a customer of ours, and they were doing and supporting a very large public event, and were concerned about the fact that they saw threat groups from North Korea trying to hack into their system. And we found them when they were going in, and we were able to identify them very quickly because we'd gone out and built threat modeling coverage around this event specific for what they were doing. And therefore the SIM identified these new processes that we're trying to get in. We then highlighted those, moved those into a case, those went into Siemplify. We were able to identify those quickly from our analyst terms, were able to go out, and as a result of that, we were able to prevent any breach to their systems as a result of, and again, this was a nation state attack at the highest level that you get, and we identified that. And it all went back to the fact that we had our content being managed, we had our automation set up and our rules set up, all leveraging threat. And this is what I mean when I say that SOAR is so big and so powerful that it can deliver things at a level from a management perspective that can change your business. And we kind of described how it changes our business. Let's go to the last one. And so here's some key takeaways that we use and we think when you talk about hybrid SOAR. The first thing is that you have to get very efficient at alert management and triage. That's the starting gate. If you're not doing that at the highest level, if you leave these bad guys in for an hour, 2 hours, if you don't have 7x24 support and they get in overnight, they're there for 8-10 hours around your system. So you have to have high quality alert triaging. Next thing is it, as I said, you have to have advanced threat intelligence to be able to deliver at that level. Third thing is that if you're going to go into the SOAR platform, which we highly recommend, if you haven't, you should find one and start looking at them, is start developing custom playbooks. And when you look at a SOAR, it's not a one and done when it comes to playbooks. Just like SIM is not a one and done when you build filtration. Playbooks are constantly being modified, constantly being changed because of the dynamics of what's going on from the cyber world. So when you make an investment in SOAR, know that you will be investing in making sure you have playbooks. And it doesn't matter what vendor you pick. That's true of all vendors. But the return on investment, as you saw from ours, more than compensates for that. And then the next thing is to make sure you've got someone in your organization that understands SIM and understands how to do advanced content management. In addition to that, always looking at how do you do remediation, whether it's through a third-party vendor, if you have your own EDR platform, make sure you do that and manage that. And then lastly, when I talked about in the beginning, I said that cyber gangs are working in groups and they're working in ecosystems and they're attacking us. The only way we as an organization are going to change that is we have to start working together ourselves. We need to come together and start sharing more information. We need to collaborate better, and we need to be able to have the ability to share control across organizations that have the expertise to do it, whether it's your organization, whether it's a MSSP. If you're not being able to share that openly between, if you are currently outsourced, if you're not able to share that where you're able to do things from your side as a customer and the MDR doesn't allow you to go into their system and do things, that is a way that we go back to my original slide where I showed the black box and the white box. That's the problem with that methodology. And we as a company made a decision, when we took this company over a year ago, that's what we're changing. So this is how we're delivering a hybrid SOC today. This is our takeaway. And, if you guys have any questions or anything else, you can always reach out to me or my team, and we'd love to chat with you. So let's go to the next slide.
Thanks, Mike. I actually think we can leave this slide up while we do the Q&A, if that works for you.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So just a reminder to everyone, you can use the control panel, either the chat function or the literal Q&A function to ask those questions. But to get us started, simple question for you, Genya, is the Siemplify platform multi-tenant?
Yeah, absolutely. It supports multi-tenancy as a native feature. It, of course, means that you can create isolated environments for each one of your tenants, and it contains the data and the features and the metrics, and everything is, of course, per tenant.
And I'll add my part to that. We have a lot of large customers, and we run it in a multi-tenant environment.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Follow-up question for you, Mike. You discussed moving away from sort of the black box MSSP model. Can you elaborate further on how you go beyond simply reporting to collaborate with the end user?
That's a great question. We have the ability to open our systems to allow users to come in and participate at whatever level they want, whether it be just getting reports and dashboards, whether they want to collaborate and be more involved in the triage process, all the way down to where we can give them complete control. So if they want to run complete control, we can deliver that to them. And the reason we're doing that is that the only way in a community or a ecosystem that you can change the game that's happening to us today in the cyber world is you have to be that open and transparent. And so we literally provide 100% transparency to our clients.
Awesome. And I think, you may have kind of just answered this question, but another question is, when it comes to the hybrid SOC model, do you recommend SOCs sort of outsourced to you their high-level responsibilities or the lower tier analyst responsibilities, or what do you think is the optimal model?
Well, that's another great question. There's some great questions coming in. It depends is really the answer. What is if you're a company, what is your level of expertise? If you saw what our SOC looks like, and you saw the advances that we have. We have data lakes, we have UEBA, we have all those capabilities that are built into our system. Our experience level is we're supporting, and we deal with nation state attacks and all these different attacks. So our experience level is really, really high. If you have that kind of level, then by all means, take control and manage it, and then use us maybe or an MSSP for off hours or weekends, or less some of those areas where you don't want to do it. But what I find is that unless you're probably one of the Fortune 50, Fortune 250, even up to some of the Fortune 500, most organizations don't have the budgets to be able to deliver the level of capabilities like an MSSP of our size or other large MSSPs to deliver that. So I think it's kind of you as a customer have to decide, what is my expertise level? And in this situation, egos have to get out of the way, because you're looking at, in 2021, $6 trillion of financial damages. Any one of us could be in that this year. It is that big of a challenge, and the cyber crime community is much better financed than we are. So we have to come together, and that's why in our customers, and even when we're looking at talking to new companies, the conversations we have is, what does that look like? Where should that control be? Where should that process be? And we have those open collaborative conversations in our process to determine what they are. And because of the flexibility in our company, it can change at any point in time. It can be, you may be doing it all and we're not doing any, and then maybe we need to come in. For example, maybe you're doing it all, but you get a massive ATP attack that's just overwhelming you. Okay, you need us to come in and burst and come and help you. That's our view of an ecosystem, what we mean in an ecosystem.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. It looks like at the moment, that's all the questions that have come through so far. Before we go, I do want to quickly mention that if today's presentation piqued your interest and you want to get your hands on your own version of a SOAR platform, we do have the community edition of Siemplify. It's completely free to download. You can go to siemplify.co/community. And go from there. We do have ready to deploy out of the box use cases. You can build real playbooks, integrate your real solutions, and respond to real security alerts. And by also downloading our community, you get access to our quote unquote community. It's a Slack channel built for and around SOAR experts, as well as other security operations experts as well, so you can get help from one another and crowdsource information. So with that, I'll let Mike and Jenya share their parting thoughts, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, for everybody out there, I truly believe that I've read it in different posts and blogs that this is the age of cyber. It's a golden age of cyber crime, and this is serious for all of us. It's something that we have to just put egos aside. We have to start putting competitors aside, and we have to address this straight head on, because otherwise we're all going to be, sooner or later, we're going to be consumed by it. So that's my view on it as the CEO of our MSSP, that it's a very scary world that we all are living in today.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Jenya. We really appreciate this presentation, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Like Mike said, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. So I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.